Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin is the protagonist of a fairy tale that originated in Germany. The tale was collected by the Brothers Grimm in the 1812 edition of Children's and Household Tales. It was subsequently revised in later editions.
Plot.
In order to make himself appear more important, a miller lies to a king, telling him that his daughter can spin straw into gold. Some versions make the miller's daughter blonde and describe the straw into gold claim as a careless boast the miller makes about the way his daughter's straw-like blonde hair takes on a gold-like luster when sunshine strikes it. The king calls for the girl, shuts her in a tower room filled with straw and a spinning wheel, and demands that she spin the straw into gold by morning or he will cut off her head. Other versions have the king threatening to lock her up in a dungeon forever. She has given up all hope until an imp-like creature appears in the room and spins the straw into gold for her in return for her necklace. When the king takes the girl, on the next morning, to a larger room filled with straw to repeat the feat, the imp spins in return for the girl's ring. On the third day, when the girl has been taken to an even larger room with straw and told by the king that he will marry her if she can fill this room with gold or kill her if she cannot, the girl has nothing left with which to pay the strange creature. He extracts from her a promise that her firstborn child will be given to him, and spins the room full of gold a final time. The king keeps his promise to marry the miller's daughter. But when their first child is born, the imp returns to claim his payment. Now give me what you promised. The now queen offers him all the wealth she has if she may keep the child. The imp has no interest in her riches, but finally consents to give up his claim to the child if the queen is able to guess his name within 3 days. Her many guesses over the first 2 days fail, but before the final night, her messenger, though he does not know the significance of his mission, comes across the imp's remote mountain cottage and watches, unseen, as the imp hops about his fire and sings. In his song's lyrics, "Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow, I'll go to the king's house, nobody knows my name, I'm called Rumpelstiltskin," he reveals his name. When the imp comes to the queen on the third day and she, after first feigning ignorance, reveals his true name, Rumpelstiltskin, he loses his temper and his bargain. Versions vary about whether he accuses the devil or witches of having revealed his name to the queen. In the 1812 edition of the Brothers Grimm tales, Rumpelstiltskin then ran away angrily, and never came back. The ending was revised in a final 1857 edition to a more gruesome ending wherein Rumpelstiltskin in his rage drove his right foot so far into the ground that it sank in up to his waist. Then in a passion he seized the left foot with both hands and tore himself in two. Other versions have Rumpelstiltskin driving his right foot so far into the ground that he creates a chasm and falls into it, never to be seen again. In the oral version originally collected by the Brothers Grimm, Rumpelstiltskin flies out of the window on a cooking ladle. Heidi Ann Heine.
Variants.
The same story pattern appears in numerous other cultures. Tom Tit Tot in England, from English Tales by Joseph Jacobs, Uppity Story in Scotland, from Robert Chambers' Popular Rhymes of Scotland, Gilitrut in Iceland, Judain Jaiden in Arabic, He Who Talks Too Much, Klejmushka, Junker, in Russia, Rumpelsimkamp/Rumpelnik in Czech Republic, Martinko Klinak in Slovakia, Ruida Kadito, meaning little noise in South America, Pansimanci in Hungary, from Akja de Furilia by Kolotsvari Grandpi Ramil, Kbilidrata, Wine Screamer, in Serbia and Croatia, Tremota No in Italy, Use Li Gors Li VTS Li GVTS Li in Israel, a compact and rhymey. Touched to the original sentence and meaning of the story, he advised me and then turned me into a joke. Deku to Onoroku, Deku means a carpenter, to means, and Onoroku is an ogre's name, Dalgong to Guiliu in Japan and Mimidon in France. These tales are Aunt Thompson Type 500, the name of the helper. Another of the Grimm's tales revolves about a girl trapped by false claims about her spinning abilities, the three spinners. However, the three women who assist that girl do not demand her firstborn, but instead ask that she invite them to her wedding and say that they are relatives of hers. She complies, and when the three appear at the wedding, amazing the king with their ugliness, They tell the king that their various deformities, an overgrown thumb in one, a pendulous lip in the second, an enormous foot in the third, are the result of their years of spinning. The horrified king decrees that the bride will spin no more. In contrast to Rumpelstiltskin's self-seeking, therefore, these helpers ask only the payment of extending their benevolence to the heroine, and ensure that she will not need their help again. In one Italian variant, the girl must discover their names, as with Rumpelstiltskin, but not for the same reason. She must use their names to invite them, and she has forgotten them.
Name origins.
The name Rumpelstiltskin in German means literally little rattle stilt. A stilt is a post or pole which provides support for a structure. A Rumpelstilt or Rumpelstilts was the name of a type of goblin, also called a pop-heart or pop-heart, that makes noises by rattling posts and rapping on planks. The meaning is similar to Rumpelgeist, rattle ghost or poltergeist, a mischievous spirit that clatters and moves household objects. Other related concepts are monarts or boggarts and hobs, that are mischievous household spirits that disguise themselves. The ending chen is a German diminutive and designates something as little, or dear, depending on context. The earliest known mention of Rumpelstiltskin occurs in Johann Fischart's Geschichte or Gargantua of 1577, a loose adaptation of Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel, which refers to an amusement for children named Rumpelstilt or the Pop-Heart.
Names used in translations.
Translations of the original Grimm fairy tale, KHM 55, into various languages have generally substituted different names for the dwarf, whose name is Rumpelstiltskin in the original. For some languages, a name was chosen that comes close in sound to the German name, Rumpelstiltskin in English, Rumpelstiltskin in Dutch, and Rumpelsteichen in Portuguese. He is known as Päronskaft in Swedish, literally pear stalk. The sense of stilt or stalk of the second part is retained. In Danish and Norwegian, he is known as Rummelskaft, literally rumbleshank. In other languages an entirely different and generally meaningless name was selected, such as Barbaiku, Broomprestosh, Grigregredin Menfretin, Altrupastash, Trakarsin or Perlimpinpin in various translations to French. Polish translations use Tight Literary or Rumpelstiltskin, Greek translations use Kautzokoligiers, Czech translations use Rumpelsimkamp or Rampelnik, Slovak translations use Martinko Klinak, and Finnish ones Titelentu. Italian has Tremotino, Serbian, Bosnian and Croatian Kviljadrata, and Hebrew Vtsli Gvtsli, Uorsli Gorsli, a name chosen by the poet Avraham Shlonsky when using the fairy tale as the basis of a children's play, now a classic among Hebrew children's plays. In Spain, the character's name is Rumpelstiltskin and Rumpelstiltskin. The name Rumpelstiltskin comes from the Italian novelist Diego Tislab, who wrote the original novel titled Diablo al Negro about a young English girl called Elizabeth Shepherd, a schoolteacher.
Appearances in media. Literature.
The Rumpelstiltskin Problem by Vivian van Velde, The Witch's Boy by Michael Gruber. Rumpelstiltskin appeared in the Book of Lost Things with the nickname Crooked Man. In Diane Stanley's short fiction, Rumpelstiltskin's daughter, Rumpelstiltskin falls in love with and marries the miller's daughter and helps her escape from the king. The main character turns out to be their only daughter, Hope. Elizabeth C. Bunce's novel A Curse Dark as Gold was inspired by the story of Rumpelstiltskin. The miller's daughter is written as a strong female character determined to save the failing mill and the town that depends on it. Susanna Clarke's On Licorice Hill, found in The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories, is a version of Tom Tit Tot, Xavier Pierotta's Guess My Name, published in the Once Upon a World series, is a retelling of the Welsh version of the story. Rumpelstiltskin appears in the issue 4 of The Muppet Show that was a part of the Treasure of Pegleg Wilson arc. Rumpelstiltskin makes a brief appearance at the beginning of Red Hood's Revenge the Third in Jim C. Hines' Princesses series, starring Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White as active heroines, where he has abducted several children by luring princes in with promises of marriage to the children who can spin straw into gold. He is captured by the 3 heroines, but is subsequently killed by Rudette the adult Little Red Riding Hood. now an efficient and deadly assassin while being sent to Fairy Town to answer for his crimes. In Walter Teavise's science fiction novel The Man Who Fell to Earth, Thomas Newton tells Nathan Bryce, "My name is Rumpelstiltskin." Jonathan Carroll's novel Sleeping in Flame is a modern variant on the story, which refers explicitly to the Grimm's version. In George Orwell's novel 1984, a character of the Inkset Party is described as being a Rumpelstiltskin figure, CHIX, pages 188.
Comics.
The tale is adapted in the fourth issue of Zenescope series Grimm Fairy Tales, but it is given an alternative, more tragic ending. Mr. MXYZPTLK is an impish supervillain who appears in DC's Superman comic books. His origin story somewhat resembles the legend of Rumpelstiltskin.
Music.
The song Split Myself in Two by the Meat Puppets is inspired and loosely based on the tale. Rumpelstiltskin is a song by the Columbus, Ohio underground band Earwig from their album Gibson Under Mountain. Rumpelstiltskin's Resolve is an album by folk rock musician Sean Phillips. The third movement of Robert Schumann's March en Builder is inspired by the story. Rumpelstiltskin Grinder is a thrash band from Toronto signed to Relapse Records. Stiltskin is a Scottish rock band, notable for the fact that one of its band members, Ray Wilson, was temporarily a lead vocalist of progressive rock band Genesis. Linkin Park released a song named I Am Rumpelstiltskin on their album Here's Work 2, which quotes the original German fairy tale. Rumpelstiltskin is a song by funk band Parliament from the album Motor Booty Affair. The song title is reminiscent of the fairy tale's title. Rumpelstiltskin is a punk retelling of the fairy tale by John Otway. The ballet Rumpelstiltskin by the British composer David Soyer is based on the tale, in the 2013 song by Eminem titled The Monster.
Television.
Rumpelstiltskin appears in Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child voiced by Robert Townsend. Rumpelstiltskin is a main character in the TV series Once Upon a Time from ABC, in which he is the pawn shop owner Mr. Gold in the town of Storybrooke, Maine, where fairy tale characters are trapped with no memory of their true selves. Flashbacks reveal that Rumpelstiltskin was originally an ordinary human who, by a strange twist of fate, became a dark sorcerer who regularly made dark deals with other fairy tale characters. This version of Rumpelstiltskin is also, in roundabout ways, Cinderella's fairy godmother, or at least he usurps that role after killing the fairy, the beast from Beauty and the Beast, and the crocodile that took the hand of Captain Hook. Rumpelstiltskin is played by Robert Carlyle. The miller's daughter is also featured in the series, named Cora, who is revealed to be the Queen of Hearts and the mother of the evil queen. The events of the original story are reimagined, rather than merely spinning the straw into gold for her. Rumpelstiltskin taught Cora how to do it herself, along with many other dark arts, and they had a romantic relationship. Cora, however, ultimately chose power over the weakness of love and removed her own heart so that she could bring herself to marry Prince Henry instead of running away with Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin is eventually revealed to be the architect of all the events that occurred in the series, as a way to reunite with his long-lost son, Balefire. In Season 3, it is revealed that Rumpelstiltskin's father is Peter Pan, who gave up the child Rumpelstiltskin as part of a deal with the Shadow in Neverland to regain his youth. Rumpelstiltskin was also featured in NBC's Grimm, where the tale is the inspiration for the Season 2 episode Nameless. He is a type of creature, Wesen called a Fuchsdoodlewild. The episode featured a Fuchsdoodlewild named Trinket Lipslums, an anagram of Rumpelstiltskin, who is revealed to have helped a team of video game programmers finish an enormously popular MMORPG. The programmers hid his involvement, possibly unintentionally, so they wouldn't have to share credit, so Lipslums starts hunting them down one by one. As in the original tale, much of the story centers around determining the character's name. In an episode of the TV show Star Trek, Deep Space Nine titled If Wishes Were Horses, Miles O'Brien reads his daughter the story of Rumpelstiltskin at bedtime and then leaves her room. She comes out shortly afterward to inform her father that Rumpelstiltskin is in the room with her. O'Brien assumes that it is just her imagination and goes into the room with her only to discover that Rumpelstiltskin is indeed in her room. At the end of the episode it is revealed that Rumpelstiltskin, along with various other manifestations, are in fact aliens that were studying imagination. In the TV show Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theatre, the second episode, aired originally in 1982, titled Rumpelstiltskin, stars Hervilla Chase as Rumpelstiltskin, Ned Beatty as the king, and Shelley Duvall as the miller's daughter. In the German TV series Spuk und Herrenreisenrad, Rumpelstiltskin is the only one of the three evil, living dummies, Witch, Giant, and Rumpelstiltskin, who doesn't turn good at the end and is frozen by a policeman with a fire extinguisher. He also tries to take over Burg Falkenstein by blackmailing the owner with a fire. The German TV aired in 2009 an adaptation of the original story of the Grimm brothers. Rumpelstiltskin was played by Robert Stadler. According to the filmmakers, we did not want overgrown dwarf, but a prince of the forest, and Stadler is exactly the right thing. In this adaptation the title character was not created as the usual evil man, who comes out of the woods to do evil, but also shows the human side. Their Rumpelstiltskin has a desire, namely, to have a man around. The filming location was the same Schloss which appears as Castle Grunewald in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Film.
A 1955 live-action film produced in West Germany, but also released in the US by K. Gordon Murray in 1965 and re-released by Paramount Pictures in 1974, directed by Herbert B. Fredersdorf starring Werner Kruger as the title character. The film is still aired on German television. In 1962's The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, a dream sequence featured Rumpelstiltskin, played by Arnold Stang, alongside other Grimm characters such as Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Cinderella, and Tom Thumb. Rumpelstiltskin is one of the fairy tales featured in the direct-to-video film Muppet Classic Theatre where the character was played by Gonzo the Great. Rumpelstiltskin appears in the Shrek films. The character has also appeared as the antagonist and archenemy in the film Shrek Forever After, voiced by Walt Dohrn, manipulating Shrek into making a wish that would erase Shrek from existence after the ogre indirectly thwarted Rumpelstiltskin's chance to become the ruler of Far, Far Away. The king and queen had been about to make a deal with him to free their daughter Fiona from her prison before Shrek saved her. It is implied throughout the film that Rumpelstiltskin's deals have fallen out of favor in Shrek's world as people have learned to be more comfortable with who they are thanks to Shrek's example, such as Pinocchio rejecting the offer to become a real boy, and Shrek's friend Donkey also mentions that Rumpelstiltskin has changed the clauses in his deals as now everybody knows his name. Rumpelstiltskin already made an earlier appearance in Shrek the Third as a member of the gang of fairy tale villains Prince Charming rounds up in an attempt to take over Far, Far Away, where he mistakes his name as from Pigskin. However, he had a very different look and was voiced by Conrad Vernon. Rumpelstiltskin is one of the deceased characters brought back during the Thriller parody. The character has also appeared as the antagonist and archenemy in the film Shrek Forever After, voiced by Walt Dohrn, manipulating Shrek into making a wish that would erase Shrek from existence after the ogre indirectly thwarted Rumpelstiltskin's chance to become the ruler of Far, Far Away. The king and queen had been about to make a deal with him to free their daughter Fiona from her prison before Shrek saved her. It is implied throughout the film that Rumpelstiltskin's deals have fallen out of favor in Shrek's world as people have learned to be more comfortable with who they are thanks to Shrek's example, such as Pinocchio rejecting the offer to become a real boy, and Shrek's friend Donkey also mentions that Rumpelstiltskin has changed the clauses in his deals as now everybody knows his name. Rumpelstiltskin already made an earlier appearance in Shrek the Third as a member of the gang of fairy tale villains Prince Charming rounds up in an attempt to take over Far, Far Away, where he mistakes his name as from Pigskin. However, he had a very different look and was voiced by Conrad Vernon. Rumpelstiltskin is one of the deceased characters brought back during the Thriller parody. Rumpelstiltskin appeared in Happily Ever After and its sequel, voiced by Michael McShane. In the first film, he is one of the fairy tale villains that side with Cinderella's wicked stepmother Frida after she alters his story. A 1987 live-action musical film, a fairly direct retelling of the fairy tale, starring Amy Irving as the miller's daughter and Billy Barty as the title character. a 1996 supernatural horror B-movie wherein Rumpelstiltskin is trapped in a jade rock for 500 years until a woman is compelled to purchase the rock from an unusual antique shop. The woman makes a wish that her dead husband come back to life to see their child. Rumpelstiltskin grants her wish, bringing her husband back for one night, then tries to steal the baby from the mother with an attempt to eat the baby's soul. This movie stars Max Grodenchik as Rumpelstiltskin, and Kim Johnston-Ulrich as the mother of the child.
Games.
Rumpelstiltskin appears briefly in the Dark Parable's sixth installment, Jack and the Sky Kingdom, as a stone imp, having once been a stone idol animated by a sorcerer, and having since its captivity reverted back to stone. He also appears in the bonus chapter, Rumpelstiltskin and the Queen, where having claimed the Sky Kingdom's new queen newborn daughter, the Queen quests to reclaim her child. After the Queen has subdued the imp, the Sky King, corrupted by the imp's magic, keeps the imp hostage to spin him more gold.